In this video, we're testing out the Tetra Drip brewer. Welcome, my name is Patrick Rolf and this is Coffee with April. For this episode, we're celebrating the fact that spring is coming to Copenhagen. It's getting a little bit warmer, we spend a little bit more time outside. So we want to discover different ways to basically brew coffee outside, right? Which can always be a little bit of a challenge. And a while back, we bought from Socorro in Japan the Tetra Drip brewer, which I'm sure you guys have seen. It's a really interesting little thing that is very kind of foldable, very portable. You can easily, fit it into a tiny little bag and bring it with you out. We're going to try this and we're going to benchmark it with our own filter drip packs, which we kind of created then for, coffee out in the wild or when you're traveling, right? So what we're going to do is actually take the same coffee. So this drip pack is based on a wash processed gesha from the Socorro farm in Guatemala. We're using the same coffee for the Tetra as well. And we're just going to kind of brew them both in the way that we do it, compare that, talk a little bit about that, and also then share what do we get in terms of taste, right? What is the easiest way to brew coffee when you're outside, and what is actually tasting the best, right? So obviously the Tetra Drip pack comes in a very small little box, which is nice. You can basically fit everything in this little bag here, which is actually really convenient. Then you do have to bring a paper filter. We're using a Hario, smaller size O2 filter. So you have to bring that separately. With the filter drip pack, you have everything in one, right? Cool, we're gonna walk you through how we're brewing and see what comes out. So the filter drip pack, you basically just open up like this. Then you have a little bag inside. You take off the top. The coffee is already ground, dosed, and dialed in for you, basically. That's one of the interesting things with them. And we do that together with our partners, basically in-house. So that makes sure that it basically performs exactly like we want to every single time. So in here you have 10 grams of coffee. We are going to brew a little bit of a larger brew with the Tetra. We're going to use 12 grams of coffee. So it's not a 100% comparison, but again, they're two different brew methods, so it's not really need for it. Now, we're also using a kettle that is a little bit more representative of what one may actually use out in the nature. A lot of people don't actually bring a gooseneck kettle outside. So we're going to be pouring from this, more or less. The water temperature on both brews are going to be 92 degrees Celsius. Obviously, when you're outside, a lot of the brews is just heating up water, like boiling it up by the fire or whatever, and that works perfectly fine as well. So we rinse the paper filter, which is kind of step one with the Tetra. Gonna put it on top of a cup. Another observation here clearly is that the Tetra requires a scale, right? Because you still kind of want to know how much water you're pouring on. Whereas with the filter drip pack, we're simply going to fill that up twice to the top, and then that's going to be enough. So 12 grams of coffee, grinding that a little bit finer than what we would do on the April brewer, just because it is a cone-shaped brewer. And we're going to do a traditional kind of 2-pour structure. So I'm trying to, with a little bit of control at least, pour 100 grams of water on the coffee here. And then I'm going to fill up the filter drip pack. And I basically just want to make sure I saturate everything. And I pour it all the way up to the edge of the filter in one continuous pour. And then I'm just going to let that go down. So very straightforward. Then we're up at 35 seconds on the Tetra, and I'm going to do my second pour. And that will also just be a 200 gram pour, or 100 gram pour, giving us a total of 200 grams of water on the coffee. Now, one of the things I can see is that I'm actually reaching the top of the filter, so I'm actually not able to pour continuously there. So the last pour with the Tetra will actually be split into whatever volume I can fit into the filter without I have water going over the paper filter, right? Now, all of the water has gone through in the filter drip pack. That means I'm going to fill it up once more. So I'm basically filling all of that water all the way up to the top of the filter, right? And then we're done. Now, obviously, you could use a scale on the filter drip pack as well, but the way it's designed is that you actually just pour twice up to the rim, and then you actually get very, very consistent results, right? So I personally prefer not having to actually use any kind of scale because it's supposed to be just very simple for you to use, right? We're gonna let both of these drain through, then we're gonna taste them, evaluate them, and come back with you and get some feedback there, right? We're back with a little bit of a conclusion here, right? So first of all, we brewed them in a way where the beverage weight was actually quite similar, basically leaving us with quite consistent ratios over the two brews, right? Now there's a few things to discuss here. One is that the strength of the drip pack comes out at a TDS of 1.25, which for us is kind of perfect. That's what we're looking for, right? So the average brews that we do are usually between 1.25 and 1.3 in terms of strength. That's where we find most coffees actually tasting the best. Secondly, naturally, you can regulate that if you want to by just pouring a little bit less water, right? So you could do that if you want a stronger cup of coffee. However, that's how we kind of decided to do. Now, with the Tetra, what we have here is a slightly higher TDS. It's about 1.3.3. That's interesting, right? Interesting because you do get a little bit more intensity out of it. You are definitely able to extract the coffee, which is also really nice. There's a few observations where you can see just visually on the coffee bed inside of the filter, where you actually have kind of clumps of coffee up in the corners, which I don't believe I've ever seen on any kind of brewer. I believe some sort of agitation might help that, but it's also kind of a tricky brewer to agitate, right? So difficult, and we do get a little bit of bitterness coming out of this, which is a little bit surprising on that low of a TDS. Naturally, there's always tweaking to do, right? There's crown size to be changed. There's a few other variables you can definitely look into, right? So we're kind of happy with both options. The question here is just how much frost do you want? Like how do you want to approach your brewing outdoors, right? And there's not really any right or wrongs here. We're just kind of here exploring what we might think is the best way to do it, right? One of the challenges we can see with the Tetra is the fact that it's very hard to brew coffee for more people at the same time, which to be fair, that's the case with the filter drip pack, but filter drip pack, you can kind of just pop one on each cup that you have with you or whatever mug you have, right? And just fill it up twice and then you're done. Here, you're kind of stuck having to brew multiple brews because the brewer just doesn't fit that much water. And I think that's a little bit of a challenge, right? However, both cups are very acceptable and we think they're kind of tasty, right? And we want to kind of open up here for the next few months. We're going to do a little bit more videos that is connected to these kind of outdoor brewing of coffee because we're really interested. We would like to hear your thoughts on it as well. How do you brew coffee when you travel? How do you brew coffee when you're outside? Obviously, we're going to have a lot of AeroPress, which is always a good option, right? But we also want to kind of look outside of that. What is the new things and what are people actually trying and testing? So with that, we want to just thank you for watching and remind you that we take this conversation over to Patreon. So if you want to talk more about it and get some kind of behind the scene content, that's where you should look for it, right? So with that, we want to wish you a great day and thank you again for watching. We want to give a special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to continue to make these videos. And we want you all to feel free to always come with suggestions and ideas on the content that you want to see because we are doing this for you and because of you. Thank you from all of us here at April.